Here's one last question, if you indulge me just a minute, Mr. Chairman. In the previous testimony, the committee has been told that the F-18 manufacturer submitted a proposal offering a 10% cost savings for a multi-year procurement. In fact, that's what Secretary Gates said. He had to have 10% or he wouldn't be happy. I guess I'd take any amount of money we could get if we get an improvement. But anyway, in your recent testimony to the SASC, you indicated that a 10% saving was simply not enough to meet a threshold of interest, but the savings in the teens would actually be required for a multi-year procurement. It appears to me that you're either trying to posture yourself to negotiate more savings from the manufacturer, or you're arbitrarily setting requirements on the fly. What is the basis for now requiring a savings that exceeds 10%? I'd like to believe that this figure wasn't arbitrarily chosen, so I'd like to see your analysis that supports this new figure and would allow you to justify walking away from nearly $500 million of savings. You understand? This is one that was kind of carefully written. You understand what we're saying?
I do, and I can respond very directly to it. The Secretary indicated that 10% was the threshold of interest. I think that was the phrase I used. Obviously, we would like to get as much savings as we possibly can. That's something that is a matter of discussion and negotiation with the contractor, and also as we do our own independent assessment of what we should pay for the aircraft. So we're trying to get the best deal for the taxpayer and the warfighter, the best deal. And
now, when you're doing that negotiation, why wouldn't you in that negotiation say, hey, if we throw some more planes in instead of fixing up the old ones, what kind of deal will you give us? Why wouldn't you throw that card on the table too?
At the moment, we are discussing with them very specifically the planned buy of both EF models and Growlers, and trying to leverage the opportunity of placing a larger order to see if it's possible that we can get a multi-year savings that would warrant taking the action of a multi-year. And obviously, I'd like to get the best deal that we possibly can in that regard.
I understand you're trying to get the best deal, but currently you have a program of record. You're going to buy some planes. The contractor came and said, hey, we can do 10% to help you in this if you do a multi-year. Now, if you're really trying to get the best buy and you have the shortfall and you got a tremendously high cost to rebuild some planes, why wouldn't you at least consider tossing out, how about we increase the number of planes we're going to buy? What will you give us as a price? I mean, the Secretary has said, I like the 80% solutions instead of the real pricey big ticket thing. Why don't we use a little of that reasoning to say, look, you got a plane at whatever it is, $50 million versus another one that's going to be, what do you think, 120 when you get done with F-35? And you don't have the F-35 anyway at the time, and you do need some of them. Now, maybe you say, hey, we can't afford to fill this gap because we don't have enough money. Hey, I could understand that as an answer, but I keep feeling like you're not being rational about the way you're approaching it. That's my sense of frustration.
The analysis certainly compares life extension to recapitalization. You're right. That's logical. I think that has taken us to looking at different variants of life extension, that's analysis that is very straightforward to do, and I think we can share entirely what the basis of that is as we go forward. And I think that
we'll get to the next panel and work on that.
I guess we've kind of maybe beat this dead horse, still haven't gotten really an answer. I had a chance to see those F-18s being taken apart with the cracks in the wings and cracks in other parts. And it looks like a pretty tedious process, and the numbers saying it's a pretty expensive process, and just seemed to me like common sense that you got to compare one thing with the other, and trying to pay a tremendous amount of money to get less than 10% more hours on the airframe when you could get a whole new airframe. And I guess my question is, are you willing to do the cost analysis at least to compare those two alternatives? Right now, everything I've heard you say is, well, we're going to take a good look at taking the old ones and fixing them up, right, and compare it to what? well, compare it to, we're not going to say. You know, are we going to compare it to something? Is a comparison to just not do it at all? Or is it a comparison to buying a new one? I've never heard anybody say that yet.
Yes, sir. Let me first describe that SLEP program. Under all circumstances, we've got to get the SLEP program up, running, and producing. We cannot, when you take a look at a shortfall number of 177 aircraft in a 2017 timeframe, you cannot buy new out of that shortfall. And the economics of SLEP versus buying new, we look at, and we are doing the business case analysis, we look at what it will cost to SLEP, and then there's a range of answers there depending on the material condition of the aircraft. So we have a bottom number, and we have an upper number, and we believe the answer is in between, and it will vary by aircraft. And when you take that number and you compare it to what it would cost to buy new, there's a factor there.
So you will consider what it costs to buy new then, when you do that analysis?
I will tell you that our analysis, we have side-by-side with what a new FN-18, the UR unit recurring flyaway cost is, and we can compare that versus what it costs to SLEP. The other factor that comes into play is what are we trying to resolve in terms of the shortfall, and it's a shortfall that extends from the peak of 2017 and it goes down towards zero in the 2023 timeframe. So the SLEP program overlays that well. When we buy new, we are getting more hours, and we're getting those additional service hours in a period of time beyond when we have this shortfall. That's not a bad thing, but those extra dollars we pay for those extra hours are coming away from potentially, for example, a JSF program, which gives us the capability in that time frame that we believe, the added capability that we believe we need. So
of course, the SLEP is whatever it is, 77 aircraft. The other 100, you still got the shortfall. So, I mean, you could make a decision I just haven't heard anybody say, but I mean, if you're going to cost comparison, you got to compare something to something. And it seems to me to compare, especially if you're negotiating a multi-year, if I were a camel trader, I'd say, well, okay, you give me this percent. What happens if we throw a couple more aircraft in, for the negotiation? Just toss that out for your consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.